It's
Yeah,
like
I guess.
the note makes the pendulum swing.
No, yeah, I guess what I was thinking was just that. Yeah, okay, I understand now.
Now go back to the other one. So this is, for me, this is like a critical decision of the piece, whether you want to be the doer or if you want to be reacting.
Yeah.
And both of them are equally valid
Yeah.
interpretations.
I haven't thought about this. Like, okay.
I mean, this is extra musical.
Uh-huh.
This is not. You're learning the notes. You're doing an excellent job of learning the notes and putting the movements in. This is just to try and help and make that movement more of a vocabulary for you,
right.
Instead of an extra hoop to jump through or a hula hoop to
Yeah.
spin around while you're playing the
Right.
clarinet because you've got time for that. Okay, so let's go with that. Let's go with the reacting to outward force. So, like when you were talking about
My
you
movement
hit
is.
a bell.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So you're reacting to that. Something else is influencing your movement, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Can we take it one more time at the beginning? One of the secrets to Stockhausen is always more time, more exaggeration between the different, especially when we get into all of the trills and you have all of those different trills that are changing. Yeah. Let's take it one more time from the top.
And that's our piano. And there's an instruction here that says taper as little as possible.
So a lot of times when I think about which Stockhausen sounds I want to do, I like to think about, have you ever recorded yourself and really looked at the shape of the attacks?
No.
That'd be a really fun experiment for working with these different cells.
Yeah.
Even like your phone can do that,
right.
and it shows you the line of, oh my god, I had a professor once who was like, yeah, you can tell your attacks, you can fix your attacks just by looking at how they are. I'm like, great, so for when we have computer teachers who just like, you input the sound and they go, no, wrong. But yeah, so imagine that block of sound, how you want it to look.
Okay.
Okay, cool. For the F sharp, are you using any resonance fingers?
No.
Have you
This
maybe
read's
tried?
a little stuffy too.
That's fine. Maybe try even just using the alternate fingering.
Okay. Oh gosh.
It's okay. It's a terrible time of year for reeds. One other thing that I love to do with attacks, I love to think, I mean, obviously you know that the air creates the sound and the tongue is just interrupting the air. So the air is going to create the sound. I always like to think about the air getting to the far wall before my tongue even makes a sound.
Okay.
Just like, I always tell my students to think about it like a race.
Okay.
And the air always wins.
Okay.
Did you try the alternate fingering and then try the regular fingering? Try it again. Yes. One more time with the alternate. And the regular. Yeah, so maybe you feel more comfortable with the regular one. But that's the type of air that's going to allow it to just come out of the silence. Because that's the last thing you want in this piece is all of the, which I mean, yay, spring in Cincinnati. Or winter, I don't know, what is it anymore? Okay, let's go on. swamp tempo
Mhm.
with quarter note equals 40. But I want you to think about that exercise we did with gravity
Bum, bum,
to connect them a little more.
like bum, bum, or
But not bum, bum. I want bum, bum. You hear the difference? So not bum,
sorry.
bum, but bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, okay.
Try it. Try it just saying it without playing. With the
Bum,
phone.
bum.
So that
Or
one's a
this-
little stuck, right?
This is what I was doing. Bum, bum.
Uh-huh.
But I went bum, bum.
It's still a little stuck.
Oh, really?
Try it one more time.
I'll try. Ba-da.
Uh-huh.
Bum, bum. Oh, it is. Darn it.
But that was a great idea to try it. Can someone read to me what's on the top of your sheet right under how to practice?
Okay, that's very true.
Adelaide?
Practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes better.
Yes. That is not as happy of a thought, but it is much more true. And it will help you in real life. I had a teacher tell me this in my master's and I just went, oh, now I understand. And it's not for lack of trying. You all are very dedicated people. You want to educate the youth of America. There are no people more dedicated than you are. Overachievers, try-harders. That's you. That's me. That's what we do. But we need to be smarter about it. So, how can we do this? One thing, I managed to delve a lot into sports psychology and learning and cognition. And I had a mentor who was finishing her doctoral degree at Manhattan School of Music while I was doing my master's, who was doing a thesis on this that was incredible and incredibly enlightening for me. So the first thing we talked about when in the practice room, when you're doing one of these strategies like, has anyone seen the beans where you like line up the beans or the coins, you get it right 10 times in a row and then you can move on? That is a prime example of if at first you don't succeed, try again. Well, the reason why that doesn't always work when you get out on the audition stage or in your lesson is because you don't get to spend an hour figuring out how to play it 10 times in a row. You get one shot. And if it's not there, they go, oh, well, you can't do it. Happens all the time in auditions and blind auditions. So why does that not work? Part of it is habituation. This is a big fancy word. They did this study on babies. Basically what they did, the baby's just sitting there, they go, so you get the point. It's not interesting the fifth time. Even a baby doesn't care, and they haven't seen that many things. As cool as it is, if they see it 5 or 6 times in a row, they're going to go, I've seen that before. You got to do better. So that is what your brain does. When you play something over and over again, a lot of times what you're doing, you're not memorizing how to do it. You're either just memorizing the answer or practicing a physical sensation that requires a warm-up. You don't always get that. They do really, really mean things in auditions. But so we need to bypass that. We need to rewire our brain so that we can do it on the first time. So how do we do that? We work on our retrieval method. So there was a very cool study done and a very cool fancy sounding concept called contextual interference effect. So basically what this does is it takes your practice system and puts it on its head. So like another example of what people like to do. So you have a hard notey passage, something like that. What are you going to do? You've maybe heard of play it 5 times at one tempo and then 1 time at a metronome tempo 3 clicks faster and then 5 times at a tempo 2 clicks slower and then you just gradually work up. That's all very good. Those are very good things, but there are better ways to use them because those rely on repetition and usually only focus on one aspect of practice at a time. So in sports psychology, when they're talking about baseball players, unfortunately they don't dedicate that much time to the small muscle athletes, as they like to call us. Hopefully this will change in the future. But mostly right now they're focusing on Olympian athletes, baseball players, people with a lot of money. So they would call that type of practice blocked practice, where you take one task, you complete it, and then you move on to another one. So if a pitcher were practicing, he would do about 20 minutes on his fastball, 20 minutes on his knuckleball, and 20 minutes on his slider. And there, he used up his hour. And he probably feels pretty good about his knuckleball and his slider and his fastball at the end of 20 minutes. Repetition. It's great. Too bad we can't do it in real life. So what we're suggesting actually is a randomized practice. So what you're doing is that you are trying to add more difficulty. Your brain has to relearn how to do it each time. So basically you are making a better path for your neurons to fire, for those synapses to fire, for the magic to happen in your brain, instead of getting that physical sensation ready on the 10th time. You are getting your brain there right when you need it. So what you want to do, you want to take, I have a little example for you on this sheet. If, let's say, a general practice schedule for someone at CCM, maybe they're going to do 20 minutes of long tones, 20 minutes of scales, 20 minutes of an etude. That sounds pretty reasonable, right? So what I would propose that you do instead is that you break it up even farther. So you have those 3 things. I want you to rotate them even more in an hour. Do 5 minutes of one, 5 minutes of the next, 5 minutes of the third one, and then go back to the beginning. This will be very, very, very frustrating at first, because the other reason why you're all here is because you are perfectionists. You do not want to leave something until it is perfect. This has been conditioned by how you've learned and all of that. Well, get over it. Try it. Make an experiment. You don't have much time anyway right now, so use it to experiment. What happens is your brain revisiting those things helps you create those connections better and helps you pull it up faster. You're adding difficulty, and you're engaging your brain more. The other thing this does that's really cool is that it forces you to be organized. Has anyone ever showed up to their lesson plan for teaching and just decided to wing it? Maybe don't raise your hand because all of your teachers are in this classroom. But mentally, you can remember whether you did or not and how successful that was. I have always admired music educators because they take so much time to plan everything out. They know exactly why they're doing what they do. And you can see this in all the lesson plans that you fill out for Dr. Beagle, for Dr. Floyd, for Dr. Gottlieb. Everything you do, you need to have a reason. So why don't you have a reason for everything you do in your practice room? If you don't have a plan, you're probably going to play 15 minutes of long tones, and then you're going to get really frustrated about how this one note sounds, and then you're going to go on Facebook and see, oh, what's happening? And then 15 minutes later, you're going to go, oh, I should practice some scales, and then maybe you'll play 10 minutes of scales, and you'll get back on Facebook. You need a plan so you don't get distracted. Just like when you teach, you need a plan so your kids don't get distracted. You even need to plan your transitions. So when you have limited time, you know you have to get stuff done. Has anyone, you can raise your hand on this one, it's safe, your teachers won't hate you. Has anyone had the experience where you go, oh my God, today I have 3 hours, I can practice, it's amazing. And then you go to practice, and afterwards you're like, I got nothing done.
Oh yeah.
So frustrating, such a waste of time. Has anyone had a quick 20-minute session that they fit in between 2 other things, and they actually felt like, oh my God, I got a lot done? This happens all the time because you have motivation, because you know you have to move on. You are motivated to do better. So that's why I highly recommend that you try this randomized practice schedule. Just for a week. Try it on. See how it works. You will have to plan out what you're going to do in each session, which is also a good thing. You can write it down. You can not write it down depending on how you like to process things. Have a goal. So that is another thing that we have down here next to your practice plan. I know you've talked about SMART goals, right? What's a SMART goal? Yell it out. What's S?
Specific, measurable.
Specific, measurable.
Achievable.
Achievable.
Realistic.
Realistic.
Time.
So there's a specific time on it, okay? So these are the things that you give to your students. When your student shows up to a lesson, you go, I want you to play this concerto from beginning to end. No, because then they try and they go, oh, I suck. And then as your teacher, you don't go, you really suck. You go, no, let's try something more achievable. Let's look at this measure and let's work on this articulation. You have a goal. You're giving them a goal to work on that they can manage. Please, please, please do that for yourself. please be as respectful and compassionate of yourself as you are of these tiny humans that you're forming. It will make you a better person. It will make you a happier person. You will get a lot more done. And that also comes into something else. Another reason why I believe this plan is fantastic. And that has to do a little more with sports psychology. So whenever we perform, we have nerves. Some of us don't. Raise your hand. Do you have nerves? Do you get nervous? Okay. That's another reason why. You practiced it in the practice room and it was perfect, and then on stage it was terrible. So a couple of skills that you can work on for this are confidence and concentration. Self-confidence and concentration. How do you think that you get self-confidence? Think about your kids. How do you instill self-confidence in your kids when they're learning a steady beat? Anyone?
Positive reinforcement kind of thing.
Positive reinforcement.
They're doing it, so you tell them that you're doing it.
Uh-huh. Anything else? Ties into what we just talked about. You don't make it too hard for them. You look at their level, you look at the next step, and you find the thing in between, so that they can experience success. This is why goals are so important in practicing. And on your sheet, I have product goals and I have process goals. So product goals are where you get to go crazy. You get to go, I want to play in the New York Philharmonic. Good for you. You don't have to share that with anyone. Your product goals can be elaborate. We want to build a hierarchy of product goals. So what you do with each product goal is then you break it down into process goals, more manageable things that you can do that can get you to that goal. Obviously, my goal to play in the New York Philharmonic is way up there. I'm going to need a few branches on my tree, okay? But then they come down to very, very manageable things, like I want to work on my articulation every day. And if I write that down, right, going from B to C, so we're going from first finger on your left hand to second finger on your left hand. Practice that motion a second. All right, go ahead and try it. Going to C. Go. So you're going to use it like a grace note. You're going to go B, C sharp, C. Wait, what is C sharp? So C sharp is going to be open, no fingers. Which key do you think we're going to add? Take a look at what you got available.
This one. This little tiny one.
Uh-huh. So that is the pinky key closest to you on your left hand, right? So that's going to be G sharp. Go ahead and try that. back up so your tip is a little closer. So if this is the mouthpiece here in your mouth, this is the goal, but the tip is up here, so it's easier to use just the tip of it to touch the tip of the reed. Okay? All right. Good. So just try blowing into your hand one more time. It sounds like the speed of the air isn't quite up. Everyone go ahead and try that with it. So you want to think like if you had a piece of paper in front of you, you would be bending it backwards. You can even try that with a piece of paper. Oh. That kind of visual, okay? Yeah. So you hear how the sound kind of, it means you have just barely enough air and it's not like blow the thick soup off the spoon type of air. You know, you need to keep that speed of air up for a little while. We'll come back to it. Good. Excellent. And I can hear what you did with your tongue. This is a struggle when you're primarily a vocalist, because I struggle with this in my voice lessons in the opposite direction. My teacher is constantly telling me to just lay my tongue lower and flatter in my mouth. Clarinet is exactly the opposite. It's that pulling it back like a cobra. That's it. Okay. Good. Can you try putting twice as much air in? Good. Try once again, try to keep the throat a little more relaxed, like when you breathe out. Think of the air coming from lower down. Good. I like to tell my students it's as if, and actually, I read about this, one of the British clarinetists, Anthony Pay, had this example that I love. It's like thinking about, we all know about a garden hose, right? You have a garden hose attached to your house. You got it into the backyard, and if you forgot to turn it on, it's like, oh, I have no water at the end of my hose. But we want to think about that length of hose that's coming from your lower back and extending about like 12 feet in front of you. Many people think about the sound being right here. You want to think about it being out there. And the thing is, if you kink any part of that hose, if you step on your hose, what happens? No water. Also, hoses have this brilliant technology where you can turn on the water at the house and walk out, and then you have like a little nozzle at the tip where you turn it and the water's like, right?
Yep.
That's how we want our air to be. It's prepped and ready and just ready to go. Okay, let's hear it. Good. So make sure your tongue is nice and high. It's going to be a little higher than saxophone. Saxophone is a little lower. Okay? All right. One last thing. For now, I want us to think about air attacks. And it's a great way to practice this. So when I say air attack, I'm thinking like, ha, like a Shakespearean actor on stage. Okay? Or you can think he, ha, he, that sort of thing. So go ahead and repeat after me. Good. So I'm hearing nice supported sound from very low, and instead of being ha, 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 which you'll get a lot of your students doing, I get this ha, ha, ha. If you put your hand on your stomach, ha, ha, ha. Everyone try that.
Ha, ha, ha.
Ha, ha, ha. One more time.
Ha, ha, ha.
Okay. So since it's easy to think about while we're here, I want you to try articulating with the tongue, that same thing we did. So this whole section, you're going to be thinking about your tongue more than you probably ever have in your life, unless you play the saxophone. So again, we think of our vocal exercise, and then you want to just articulate with the tip of the tongue. A lot of people talk about using T, T, T. I like to turn that syllable around, T-E-E. I like to make it eat, 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 because that helps you focus on the backwards motion. We'll get to that in a little bit. Another syllable you can use, if that's complicated for you, is li, li, li. What's important is that your tongue is back and high, and you're using as little as possible. So try once. Aiming the very tip of the tongue at the tip of the reed. Let's all try it. One more time, really trying to open up and sing through those intervals. 2, or now, all of us together. Da-da-da. So that's long, short, short, long, long. Da-da-da-dee, da-da-da-dee. 2, row. Okay, one more time. Start at the beginning. 2, row. A clarinets are so full and resonant and dark sounding.
I
Alright.
love it.
Do you want to pull one?
Me too.
Since Andrew. Okay, and another important thing to think about when you're practicing excerpts, especially like this, is not only tuning with the other person, but tuning the intervals that you're playing.
Yeah.
Like your F sharp to B was a little wonky. Needs to be a little more open.
Where at?
In the second measure.
My B was flat.
Well, that was better than the first time you played it.
Yeah, it was hard. That's
Yeah.
what it was like first time.
Mhm.
Okay, I heard that.
Probably the A, because that's the triad there too.
Yeah, yeah, you want to outline that triad. Try it again. Stop on both the F and the A. Now put it together. Cool. So I think your staccato can even be a little bit longer. Don't worry so much about stopping it with your tongue to make it short. When we have fast articulation, you want it to just be like off the bow, like da-da-da-dee-da-da-da-dum.
Okay.
Try one slurred. But ground your fingers. Yep. One more time for good measure. That was great. Good. Now add the articulation back in. Much better. So you're treating your air more like your bow there,
Okay.
right? So it's just very easy. When the bow pressure is there, everything comes out. Have you done string methods yet?
No.
No.
But, yeah,
Soon.
but I can appreciate the analogy.
Yes. Good. Okay. Let's try the next one. I want you to stop on the E.
Okay.
Now try it slurred. Yeah, that felt very purposeful.
Thank you.
Yes. Now can you add the decrescendo in there? So you want to keep that. Try it with the slur. and really think. So you're still kind of clamping down on it a bit.
Sorry, I'm also just really. I'm just.
Yeah.
Dead.
I just want to talk about two things on this. And first off, I want you to play really crazy, like you are really tired, so that should help. Yeah, you just did what, 2 hours of rehearsal, and
Yeah.
then you came into this.
Plus,
lesson?
yeah, right. Yeah. Plus a rehearsal pianist right before then.
Aww.
No, it's okay.
Okay, you're all right.
Yeah.
I want you to start here, and I want you to play.
Oh yeah. I can do that.
Yeah, I figured you'd like that.
Louder? I mean.
Dynamic
Just
doesn't really matter
the
so much.
slurs,
Just
okay.
the looseness.
Oh, I see.
Good. Now I want you to have the air do 60% of the work instead of 30%. Before it was more like 70%, 30%.
Am I actually playing it?
Yeah.
Like
Play it actually.
And 60%
now.
of it?
But instead of going, oh, okay, now I'm going to firm up my embouchure again, use your air to make up for 60% of that. Okay.
Absolutely, especially right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done that exercise before.
Are you serious?
No, yeah, I really like it.
I've been doing this for like the whole time that I've been here.
Yeah, it's like so freeing. It's just like it's all. I didn't even think about
and
this.
that's how it should
all,
be.
Yeah,
you know, the opening of the pipe. It's
Yeah.
just there to seal.
Yeah.
I spent many years thinking about my embouchure. Did someone redo your embouchure in the past like 3 years?
No, not really. Well,
no. All right, starting on G. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now F. 2, 3, 4. So these lower notes require a little more practice. We just take the clarinet and we want to grab it a little too much. Let's do D and then we'll move on. Are you thinking of that bomb sort of setup that we'll talk more about with the bassoon? So D, or lower note up. So you're going to start with just an air sound. So your jaw is hanging a little bit slack. Try this with just an open G. Oh, right. Okay. Good. Now come to a C. Thumb 1, 2, 3. Good. Yep. So channeling a little more of that fast air. Remind yourself of your air. Good. Yeah. Exactly. You see the difference? So whenever we don't put enough air in, you'll get kind of that trembly half sound. And that's that pinging off the floor and the ceiling type of air. That's not the same as the saxophone. Okay.